welcome back to the show. So today we're talking about something we see almost every day. When issues happen and social media takes over before the courts even say anything. These days, it feels like once a story hits Instagram or Twitter, everyone becomes judge and jury immediately. But is it fair? Is it really fair? Are we getting justice faster? Or are we just destroying people's lives without knowing the full truth? To break this down, with us is Ademola Adeshina. He's a legal practitioner with over a decade of experience in practice, particularly in commercial and legislative drafting, as well as alternative dispute resolution and litigation. Welcome to the table this morning, our barrister lawyer. Happy to have you. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful to be on the show, and I hope we can contribute meaningfully to the conversation.
Amazing. All right. So, I mean, with our topic today, we've seen it all from, sexual assaults to fraud arrests, right? The internet is reacting even before, the courts. Is it good or bad for the society?
Well, I'll speak from the perspective of a lawyer. Yes. I'll say it's not good. The reason why I say so is because, a lot of times the conversation doesn't really take the step it's supposed to take, because people often make this they often put out this disposition without necessarily knowing the facts, and it tends to ruin the chances of true justice, as the case may be. So that for me is a menace. It's something that I don't know. Time and again we've tried to talk to people, don't do this, don't do that, but once it gets on social media, it just gets a life of its own, and
but is it their fault if we see cases that are swept under the carpet, until
people make noise about it?
Where people now start to shout about it.
You see, it's a very thin line, really, because, I mean, like I told a friend some time ago, one of my friends happened to be a very strong, do I call him now, protege of a very dark man.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, and it was like, what this guy is doing is very fantastic.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, well.
You don't think so? I
don't think so. For me, I'm very big on mode of operation. It's not enough that you're doing something. It's the process in which you also go about it tells a lot for me. Now, you may be doing something very right, but be going about it the very wrong way. So for me, it's tantamount to you not doing the right thing at the end of the day. So very dark man is doing something very right, but the way he goes about it for me is not the best. And much as I try not to blame him, because like you said, a lot of times things get swept under the carpet, and then you feel that, okay, we need a voice to speak for the people, which is very, very true. But then we also must be wary, particularly when we feel that we have an audience who listens to us. We must also be wary of how we let these things get into our head, so that we also don't misdirect the people, because the people are truly yearning for a voice. And so we should learn to use our voice the right way. So maybe it's about training these people, how do I call it, or maybe it's a very, very thin line, like I said, between doing the right thing and doing it the right way.
But I mean, sometimes genuinely we see that sometimes social media can be faster than court processes. Say, for example, maybe you were scammed by, in fact, it's happened to me before, scammed by an Instagram vendor, right? And I wanted to go the right way. Okay, let me go to court. I first of all went to the bank to report. You have to write letter. When you write letter, they say you have to get a court order. And then even at the bank, they were telling me that, honestly, do you really want to pursue this? That it will take at least 3 months, to have your court order, even looked at. Then before they will fix a day, then you also have to pay some money and all of that. And I say, for how much now? I'll be going through. But if you now go the route of tagging the vendor, drag them, right? And everybody is also, helping you. So sometimes, genuinely, social media just feels faster.
Yes, it does. And between you and me, I'm a lawyer. And in a way, I've also exploited the opportunities that social media also presents. I will tell you for free, the court is not a very fast, what do you call it now? Fast process. It is not. And it's something that we as lawyers have been complaining about. Though I must also admit that those who also contribute to it are more or less lawyers like us. So you know, we are the pencil, we are also the eraser, as the case may be. So you know, but having said that, you know, in cases like you cited, where bank transactions or maybe vendors are trying to be smarter than they think they are. You know, sometimes yes, using the social media may be very right, but you see, my problem still remains that it's not about using it, but it's about the way we use it. Okay, sometimes we want to do, but there's a thin line, really. There's a very, very thin line. Okay, let me cite an example. A friend of mine approached me sometime last year. You know, he sold agricultural product to someone who ought to pay him something close to 22 million naira. Oh, wow. And, you know, out of the 22 million, the guy ended up paying 15 million and he delivered the goods. And after delivering the goods, the guy simply didn't pay anymore, and then started giving different excuses. This, that. You know, so the guy approached me. I said, okay, well, let us start by writing them a letter and you know, threatening to sue and all of those things. So we did that. We wrote a letter, and when we did that, you know, it generated a response from them. They wrote back to us and then they called us for a meeting. Okay, fine. Let us sit down and have this conversation. We did sit down. We sat down and had the conversation. Then, okay, what would happen? How do you intend to pay? Okay, you claim that some goods were bad. And, you know, part of our position was that when you observed it, why didn't you report immediately? Why did you have to wait till we consult that we had to go this route before? Okay, fine. In all of those things, because like I'm also more of a mediator. So I said, okay, fine. In that case, let us concede to 2 million naira out of 7 million naira that is left. Okay, pay us 5 million, which you agreed to. Okay, how do you pay? You pay this, you pay that. So in the end, he reneged on the plans as well, the payment plans as well. Wow. So you know, my friend was not like, lost a very dark man. Let us take him to this. I said, see, guy, I won't tell you not to do that. But there's a very thin line between seeking for justice and defaming somebody. If you end up defaming the person, you will end up being the criminal. How do I put it now? Not even criminal per se, but at least you end up being the wrong person, wrong party now in this case. So much as you feel that this thing may work for you, but you also must be very careful the way you go about it. If not, you end up getting worse off than you started.
Interesting. I mean, Jumoke also studied law.
This conversation is playing so many scenarios in my head, and I'm thinking so many things that I know I cannot even get out of one now. So let me start by saying that the court of social media, we might have to be very careful, and let's just make a quick distinction between civil cases and criminal cases so that you would understand where the court of social media might be applicable and when you just don't go there. You do not, should not, and must not go to social media for criminal cases. You know, you are going to destroy the evidence. You are going to destroy the perception of the person who is supposed to review the evidence when they've already seen so many stories going on and everywhere. What you are sharing is opinion, not fact. And we cannot convict anybody for any crime unless we have it, it's proven beyond reasonable doubt. Unfortunately, what you don't like, you don't like. We all view life from the lens of our experience. And so if you've ever had anyone beat you before and they say he beat her, you will not even listen to him. You know, he's guilty for being accused. And that is not how the criminal justice system works. Unfortunately, when everybody is unified against the person who is accused, that person will never, like you said, get justice. So let's just refrain from passing judgment, you know, on crime on social media. As a matter of fact, if the people with phones get to the scene of the crime before the police do, they've tampered with the evidence. And we can never really tell what happened because we have all recorded from our perspective. And what we are recording might not be the full picture. And so we might never get the full picture anymore because you have resorted to social media.
I know what comes to mind every time I see or hear of this kind of thing, the Alu boys. And how I will never forget those boys. And you know, look, they were burnt alive and then later
on we found out they did not have
so
any.
people should,
You know, so social media, crowd, mob action, it's never a solution for the criminal justice system is created and crafted the way it is, slow, but it ensures that you will never, we would rather punish 1,000 guilty people than punish one innocent person, you know, because it just destroys the fabric of society.
Let me say it the way Lord Denning said it. He said, I'd rather let 9 guilty people go than to punish a single innocent man. So you know how deep that is. For 9 criminals to go scot-free, than to punish a single innocent man. And that's why the justice system, like she said, is very slow, or could look sometimes very slow.
Very slow, yeah.
Because we want to try and, as much as possible, to eliminate every doubt that might make that person innocent at the end of the day. So that's why it's supposed to be, it's designed that way, particularly in Nigeria.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, beyond even Very Dark Man or maybe even people on Twitter or all of those, I know a popular radio show, for example, I'm not going to mention their name, obviously takes on this role of
being the community.
Yes. What does the government do to ensure that they, you know, don't cross that line, the boundaries that both of you have mentioned? What should the government do to make sure they don't cross that line, even Very Dark Man on people like that?
Well, truth be told, whatever they try to do now, most likely will be met with a lot of resistance. I must say that, because, you know, people have come to
see them as
some form of messiah or some form of heroes. That if you try and well, let me say for free that the radio station, the person who calls the radio station program that you mentioned now, one rose to an organization that I know that he wanted to seek further training. And so that also goes to show that even they know that the way and manner they go about these things are not exactly the way it ought to be. So they are also trying in their own little way to seek for further learning or clarification or whatever education as the case may be. So let me speak specifically to the question you asked. I think that there's no more or less the government can do than to continue to give these people orientation, and then to also maybe at a point uphold the position of the law as the case may be, because that's why we also have the cyber crimes act and all of those things. You understand? So when those things get more enforced regularly, then it may make them back down to some extent. But beyond that, I think more orientation needs to be, the what do you call it now, the National Orientation Agency and all of those who have to do it more on giving orientation to some of these things.
In fact, when Jumoke was sharing her thoughts, it just also reminded me of the whole Koza issue, right? Where the pastor, on social media, after after Busola gave her own account, a lot of people had already said that he's guilty, he's this, and then taking the case to courts, right? The court said there was no evidence. And so, yes, we see that social media had, said he was guilty, and the court said he's innocent, right? So if we are going with the courts now, his personality, his reputation on social media was already damaged, right? So we see in cases where even social media is wrong and the court is right, the damage from social media is still long-lasting, even more than.
Can I say not necessarily that the court is? I don't know if you agree, but
but the court said he's innocent,
is right. However, the court is law. That's how the court is not always right, but the court is law.
And you cannot convict somebody on the feelings of somebody else, and you cannot convict somebody on the hearsay of somebody else. Somebody comes and tells you this is what happened. No evidence, no pictures, no videos. So how do you categorically say that is what happened if you were not there? It's your word against mine. Why should your word carry more weight than mine? So if we say two different things happened, unless either of us can adduce evidence that attests to the fact that we're speaking of, then it still remains in the realm of conjecture. And unfortunately, or fortunately, the criminal justice system works on proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Objection, my lord.
My dear, objection more than that. You must prove it beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay, now you're saying, sorry. Sorry. You're saying,
Mm.
it's one word against the other. So, I don't know if we're aware of the Speed Darlington case, where, he literally came on social media. He made a video, right, talking about how, he literally raped a 15-year-old girl, right, a minor, and, he gave her 2,000 naira to just go and take care of herself. And, NAPTIP, called him in for... In fact, before NAPTIP, reached out to him, it was people on social media, just lauding the whole issue before they reached out to him. They summoned him and he said he left the country, and he said he's not going to come unless they pay his return tickets, his return flights, and also 2.5 million naira to show up. And then apparently, there was another lawyer, I don't know whether it's a social media lawyer or an actual lawyer, that said, if we look at the situation, he's actually not against the law. But this is somebody who said on video, is video no evidence?
Exactly. So I was going to go in that direction because I wanted to talk about the National Orientation Agency and Dominion Cats TV. Let's do the sensitization.
Yes.
Now, where is the complainant?
Exactly.
She's a minor
but
now.
exactly.
Who would complain for
I'm
her?
not saying she's not a minor. I'm not saying she's an adult. I'm saying, where is the complainant? A confession of the crime. You cannot prove that crime was actually. I mean, for all, you don't even know his mental state. Is he okay?
So if I say I want to blow
Did
up,
he
I
make
know in
it
America,
up?
if I say I want to blow up,
So I kick you to make sure you can't blow it up. But my own is that place you want to blow up must exist, right?
Yeah.
You say you have raped a minor. Where is the minor? The minor has someone, a guardian, a next friend, who can complain on his or her behalf. Has anybody made a complaint of that rape? Can a confession create a victim?
So we're saying, okay.
So let me just
identity.
add this. It's just like saying, I killed Mr. John Doe. Now, who is Mr. John Doe? Okay? So, like, you have, before you can establish the crime, you have to establish the victim. Okay? Who is Mr. John Doe? Is there Mr. John Doe in Nigeria? Okay? John Doe is a fictitious name given to someone unknown in America.
Yeah.
So if I say I killed Mr. John Doe, technically Mr. John Doe may or may not exist until you find Mr. John Doe. And then you can be able to piece the whatever together to say that, okay, yes, Demola truly killed this person.
Yes.
That's when the crime can be said to be. Like she said, we don't even know the state of mind of this gentleman. He may be saying it to blow.
So I guess
he said he was
we can say that there are some cases that will lead to social media, because that one, yes, we leave it to be dragged. Because for you to come out, yes, you may be mentally unwell, but that kind of case, we leave it to social media to be the one to do the dragging.
I love that.
You may not have to hold it.
Because it actually literally helps me conclude what I was saying. The sensitization we need to do is make people understand what their own personal rights are. If they comment on your picture that you will see what I will do to you, it is cyberbullying. It's a crime under the law of Nigeria. You can have that person arrested.
Right.
Do you understand? So we all need to become a little bit more sensitive to what the law says and what the law does not say, particularly as it affects our own personal lives. If you are texting me threats, I would arrest you. I mean, I have a ward that I'm responsible for who was defrauded. After I was defrauded, he was then arrested, and he didn't understand. And then I sent a lawyer to go with him because it was in Lagos, and they got to the station and he said he was arrested for cyberbullying because he's been texting the person that owes him money that if you don't pay me by so and so date, he didn't even threaten with anything in particular. He said, "You will see what I will do to you."
Wow.
So it was the fraud that
the guy was detained for 4 days. Because they said it's a threat to his life. Now, if you keep issuing threats, online, offline, all these people that come and troll you, if we start putting them behind bars, everybody will become a little bit more sensitive about what they say on social media. Now, it takes two things to establish a crime anywhere in the world. The act itself and an intention to commit it. So that is why there's a difference between murder and manslaughter. It is homicide if you kill with the intention to kill. It's manslaughter if the person died, that wasn't your plan. You understand? And so you cannot even convict somebody unless he has, one, done it, two, he planned to do it. So when we say we have to resort to social media, how do we say he actually committed it if there is no victim? How do we say he intended to commit it? Well, state of mind. Don't forget that it becomes a mistake if he actually did it, but he's not in control of the sentence.
Well, my bit is social media needs to come in, because even if he didn't do it, I think it sends a wrong message to be talking about a minor in that way, and he should be called out. We shouldn't just look away and say, "Oh, okay, we don't know if he did it or not." But the fact that he's saying there are young, impressionable boys who are looking at that and thinking,
you see, while not taking away the effort of the social media at large, there are some corrective. In fact, like when I was discussing the issue of morality and crime with a friend. I said, as a lawyer, it may not be my place to discuss morality as a whole, but it's also not going to mean that I'm going to jettison everything morality is going to teach.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, I will face the law based on the facts or evidence before me. That's my duty as a lawyer. But as a person, as well, whether I'm a Christian, whether I'm a Muslim, whether I'm a traditionalist, there are some morality tenets that my creed
Religion upholds.
upholds.
Yeah.
So I will also have to look at those things and then maybe speak to the effect of those things. So when we talk about what Speed Darlington did, yes, there's a place for morality. That's why he has to be called out on social media. Okay, and whatever bashing he gets from that, I personally will not sympathize with him. Unfortunately, and that's how do I call it now? Modaju.
Exactly.
I'm not even going to sympathize with him because you brought it upon yourself. So there was no need for you to go gallivanting and saying no, now that's dirty. That's very dirty. So I'm just saying that strictly from the perspective of the law, there's really little or nothing anybody can do about it, unless of course we get a victim. And maybe
I'm sorry, I will help you. There are other things, you know. We might not be talking about the crime of violating or molesting a young girl, but you can be a nuisance to your neighbors, you know. And I also do know that there's only so much Meta can do, but Meta watches and pulls down videos they find people report as offensive. So if we report that video as offensive, it will come down. His accounts will be blocked. We can act against morality by using the societal instruments that we have for such things.
But in cases where it is a moral and also criminal case, if we go the moral way by social media, we've also established that sometimes social media could, interfere with the justice. So how do we now know, this matter, let's not talk about it too much on social media, let's leave it to court, or should we merge the two? Is there maybe a bit of social media, a bit of the legal system? Or
let me also use another scenario, a popular scenario, to answer this question. The story of Baba Jesha. Yes, I remember a lot of people actually called me up, wanted to hear my perspective about it and all of that. I said, for me, as whatever he did or whatever he is perceived to have done is morally reprehensible.
Yes,
I don't deny it. But we also have to be very, very careful when we are throwing people under the bus, so that we don't end up throwing the wrong person under the bus. I mean, people were so big about, is this, is that, let us crucify him, let us do this. Yes, I think the case is still ongoing. Is
that the comedian? What's her name's Baba Jesha? What's the comedian lady?
The Princess, I think.
Yes,
Princess, yes.
Okay.
So thankfully, this lady, my victim, let me call her victim. She has somebody who is fighting strongly for her. So for me, I'd rather just err on the side of caution, just make a little comment about it. Let's just so that we don't end up confusing the situation. Because when we do it so much, we end up confusing the situation. Like she said, you might have even tampered with evidence without you knowing. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't even talk about it at all. But let us be very careful. And that's why I said it's a very thin line, really.
So we must be conscious and cognizant and bear in mind all the time that the person who actually holds the reins of justice is the criminal justice system and not social media. Social media can stigmatize you. They can drag you. They can even give you real problems in life with your connections. However, the real retribution the consequences of your crime will not be meted out by social media. And so what we should do with social media is draw the attention of the law enforcement agents to what is going on. So if you think it's not getting enough attention, then draw their attention to it. If you think they're not treating it the right way, then put pressure not on the criminal, but on the criminal justice system to act on time. There was a very, very popular case, some time ago of a lawyer in the DPP's office who allegedly killed her husband, a very long time ago. Now, for me, there was too much talk on social media, but that social media talk put pressure on the courts. They could not adjourn for long. They needed to take short adjournments because people, if the court announces a date, the number of people teeming in the courts, if the date is too far, they will protest. That no, justice must be served and it must be served now. I mean, there were spectators in court for that particular case. People knew the dates. They were following up. This is how to put pressure on the system system to work faster and work better and deliver justice.
In buttressing that, there was also this case of the guy that was murdered in a hotel in Ife. I don't know whether you remember.
Timothy.
Yes, this Timothy issue. Yes, it also showed how social media was able to aid the judicial system to work.
Yes, because there's a powerful man behind you.
Yes,
and it could have been buried under the car.
you understand. So, like, because of social media pressure, the court had to do what it had to do. And I think that the man had been convicted at least, or I think he's still waiting. He's still on appeal, I think. But at least the lower court has convicted him, which is a significant step.
Yes. And that also, I remember the battery, the gospel singer, the woman. The case, I mean, that is, for Nigeria, that is record time. The case was concluded in record time because the general public is interested. So let's apply our energies and our voice in the right direction. Not to crucify, not to pass judgment, but to make sure that the people who have the power to pass judgment are doing it and are doing it on time.
I think it just buttresses on acting smart, right? And not just, I think most times we really just want answers real quick.
Emotional,
right? You just want answers real quick.
Another very common incident, scenario that I always also want to point out to is the NSAS movement. I remember for some of us then, I said that as much as I understand why people are agitated, I mean, SARS, as it was then consecrated, was very brutal, especially to young people and all of those. So they felt the need to. But I also said that rather than scream SARS, see, 80% of maltreatments by the police is not even done by SARS. It's done by this regular police. Even me as a lawyer, I've sometimes been a victim of police brutality or violence, as the case may be. And it's not even by SARS in the police station. So I said, I understand your agitation, but don't make it all about NSAS. They will end SARS and something else will come up.
It's a nomenclature usually.
Yes. So don't make it all about NSAS. Let us say police brutality
in general,
rather than say NSAS, because SARS will end and something else will come up,
and the brutality will still keep going. Well, I mean, we did say that this was a very big conversation. To be honest, we've definitely touched on a number of sides, and in fact now I'm even torn between which one is more I think we've said that it's better to go with the law.
However, there's a place for
social media, right?
We can't jettison it all together.
And still just knowing civil and criminal cases, and the essential thing is to put pressure on the justice system to do what they need to do. Very buff conversation, and of course we could go on, but of course we'll take our life hack. When we get back, we'll have our agree or disagree segment, and of course get to talk more. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is still the big conversation on Dominion Television. We've been speaking on the justice system, the courts of social media, and the actual courts of law. But of course, it's time for our agree or disagree segment where we get our clipboards and we'll see our question on the screen where we get to agree or disagree and we'll defend our answer. All right, so let us see the question for the day, and we'll see what we need to agree or disagree to. Jumoke, please let me read dates.
I know the lawyers, of course.
Social media trials are fairer than court trials. Agree or disagree?
Generally, or in Nigeria, or in the
well,
everywhere. We know what the lawyers are going to say.
Social media trials are fairer than court trials. Do you agree or disagree? Jumoke, do you agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Disagree.
No shockers there. Okay, Demola.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree.
Okay.
Run it, please, because it's like they're on this side, we on this
Exactly.
side.
You also agree?
Can I agree?
You also agree?
I want to
Disagree?
Actually, I'm going to sit on the fence on this one.
Well, I would agree.
Especially, based on some of the things that we've seen.
We've said and seen.
Yes.
I will agree that social media. I mean,
Really?
I'm in the social
Yeah,
media
with your full
era.
chest.
Yes. So yes. Anyways, let me let the lawyers defend their answers first.
Okay.
Why do you disagree?
So let me give you a legal answer, a legal defense to my answer. So there are two basic laws of natural justice, and that is number one, audioterum patem. You must always hear every side of the story. There is hardly ever a social media trial that heard the other side of the story. As a matter of fact, the criminal doesn't even speak. Before all of you will finish me, let me just keep quiet, delete my account, slink away, So you never hear the other side, so it cannot be fair. There are two laws, those equitable laws that ensure fairness. The second one is nemo judex in causa sua. That's it in Latin. It means you cannot be a judge in your own matter. The person that carries this matter on the head the most is the person who feels slighted. That means that you are the complainant and the judge. That means that trial cannot, by its own constitution, be fair. There is no how you want to construe it, and it will be fair. They violate both laws of natural justice, equity, and fairness.
All right. So you also disagree that Demola, do you help defend the
well, I will align wholly with her, and also states clearly.
My learned colleague.
Right?
That's how we roll. Well, I also state that the more often times lack of evidence usually makes the whole social media trial thing a charade. Like, you have little or no evidence, or even sometimes manufactured evidence, so that you want to be able to victim or buttress your own yourself as the victim in this circumstance and all of those, and then you end up throwing the person under the bus. So you understand, because of that, it makes it less likely to be fair, as the case may be.
And what can we say when they're lawyers? Well, let's look at the Akpoti Uduaghan Wike situation. That was something that obviously the whole world jumped on, and people were saying, I agree that obviously there was no proof to what Senator Natasha said, for example. However, I feel, that oftentimes the reason why I'm in the middle is because of obviously how I've seen things play out, in Nigeria. Especially when there's someone that's powerful behind the scenes, especially in this case with the Wike Uduaghan, or even let me say Senator Natasha and federal government now.
In general, those Senate.
Yes, because at some point even the federal government, please explain why the federal government got involved in this. That's why for me, I would say I like it when the people are now, because I don't like when someone is being bullied, or when they may even be wrong, but I don't like when there's a gang up on people, and we see that oftentimes, which is why I like that. Yes, people now sort of back the person who seem like they are the underdog in that situation. So explain why the federal government, for example, got involved in the Senator Natasha and Wike situation.
Well, if there are criminal elements in any case, the federal government, or rather the government, has to get involved, because, well, usually is the government that persecutes. You understand? Criminal cases. So they're the ones to take you to court if you have committed a crime, not an individual.
So they do that with everyone?
Yes. You as the complainant only has to report.
Yes.
And then you become the complainant. Then the complainant, then the government takes over.
Takes it off.
If it's a crime that is committed, yes.
Right. Well, as I do say that I agree, I'm agreeing on the basis, let me talk like a lawyer, I'm agreeing on the basis that from the already existing conversation today,
Repsi Square, let's do the Repsi Square.
I mean,
happy issue.
I can speak Latin, right? I would say I agree because, from the conversation we've established that, if we act smart, right, we can actually, yield results. So I believe if, we go about the whole social media trials the right way, especially because the speed would be, much better than, the court of law, right? I would stand on the fact that I would stand on, social media trial being, yes, more fair on,
absolutely.
Most,
I totally.
It's been a very wholesome conversation, very impactful and also educating, because I think we've learned a lot of things. We don't always see like lots of legal maybe access to legal information is not as common as we should, right? So having conversations like this is very important, just so we can always learn the more and also know that okay, we need to be on the right side of law to avoid stories that touch. Right. But anyways, we have the wise words on the web, but let us see what we have for the day. Okay, Ronnie, do you want to read it?
Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. That is from Martin Luther King Jr. Very well said. Yes, and that's why people jump on things, because they don't want to, especially when it feels like there's a vulnerable person involved. Yeah. So everyone feels like, oh, we need to do something about it.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Well, that's where we end the conversation today. Just like I said, we've seen that while social media helps people speak up, the courts are still there for a reason. So maybe real justice is when both work hand in hand. Big thanks to our guest today, Ademola Adeshinoa,
Thank you very
Court
much.
of Law representative, and also our assistant lawyer. Jumoke, thank you so much, for everyone who has shared their views today, and of course, to you too for listening and learning. And remember, before you judge anyone online, there's always more to the story than what we see. I am Osara Nomasaba. Thank you for hanging out with us today on The Big Conversation.
Bye.